Hi everybody, welcome to another Chit Chat with Magpie. A while ago, several bookworms, including more than a few new members, got together on my Discord server with me to talk about Part 5, Volume 2 in preparation for the newest light novel release, and it was a blast. A huge thanks to the people on the screen who sat with me for almost 4 hours as we theorized and went on wild tangents on all things Bookworm. And finally, a special thanks to A Little of Something and Sckanners who helped with coloring the illustrations for this volume. If you'd also like to submit colored artwork for the next volume's video, DM me on Twitter so that I can include it. Alright, enough talk. Let's get this started. As snow falls around Arensbach Castle, Ferdinand, soon to be married to the duchy's next archduchess, receives a concerning letter. Not only has Rozemyne been summoned by the royal family once again, but she's also being taken to the underground archive hidden beneath the Royal Academy's library. Even as a third year, she proves to be a source of constant headaches, and the chaos only continues when she manages to pull an unexpected figure into her joint research. The stakes are raised higher still when 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧𝙙 makes an astonishing suggestion, forcing her to participate in a game of bride-taking dinner with Leidenschaft's spear in hand. Rozemyne's hand in marriage hangs in the balance in the newest volume of this biblio-fantasy.
I must say that you were right. That gives away so much.
Yes, blurbs always give away so much, and we've said before, blurbs, don't read them if you don't want to be spoiled. Yes. At least I didn't spoil the fact that the king was going to show up. Give him that, right?
that one threw me for a loop.
Yeah,
but we'll get there.
We will get there. All right. So in the prologue, this is a Ferdinand point of view, which I totally needed. First of all, because I had Ferdinand withdrawal symptoms in the last volume. And also because we got an illustration of Ferdinand, and that's always a treat. He looks very, very nice there. But anyway, Ferdinand is in Arensbach. He's getting along with the scholars, and he's seeing and we get to see how he is living his life now. One of the things that I found interesting is the differences and similarities between Arensbach and Ehrenfest's winter socializing. So that is detailed in there. And while this chapter is going on, he's working in the office. Rozemyne's letter arrives. And, it's kind of weird, but they have to read the letter out loud. So everybody in there reads aloud all of the stuff that she's working on, who she's meeting. And overall, she's basically a handful. But they also are admiring of her and how she's able to get along with royalty. They even are like, I wish our Archduke candidate girl, 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧𝙗, would be able to, have such connections with royalty. And after that, Ferdinand reads the secret letter, and he worries over just how close she is getting to acquiring the 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧𝙗.
So first off, how the heck are you having Ferdinand withdrawals when your flock keeps giving you new fan art of him? And B, it's quite a subtle chapter, full of little nuances here and there. I gotta say, it was a very nice point of view to see. Definitely sets up for a lot of things to come in the book, and it was a good choice to choose Ferdinand.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Yurgenschmidt is large enough to have that wide of a variance between neighboring duchies. It's just odd to me. I'm Canadian, so I'm in the far north. I get snow 6 to 7 months a year. I get sunlight 23 hours a day in the summer. But, it's thousands of miles before you start getting to a place where you start getting not very much snow.
It's kind of bipolar with how the weather is. I guess one thing the map does not do well in the book is show a sense of scale. There's no scale. So
perhaps I actually have the thought that maybe each little duchy is actually its own little terrarium, so they each get their own specific climate.
I can see that.
I mean, something to note is that the weather changes based off of prayer, so I feel like, geography might dictate some things, but if we were to be honest, especially with like 𝙁𝙁𝙗, right? Like winter, was really short, so who knows,
Oh, you know what? I think I know what I know what's going on. It's like, ha, you're thinking science. Ha, we have magic.
Okay, so with that, we know that it's basically kind of like pointless to equate our Earth geography and try to extrapolate to the weather and maybe this is Florida because, yeah, magic. Magic basically makes everything null. With that in mind,
Florida.
Aaronspach is definitely the Florida of Yogurtland.
Back to Ferdinand, I don't really have much to say on this chapter. It was just solid.
It was a solid chapter.
I got a lot to say on this chapter.
I also have a lot to say in this chapter. Take it away, Fergie. You go first.
I'm coming in with like a web novel perspective where I already kind of like have these thoughts and theories and I'm reading into them. And this prologue is just all detail we didn't get the first time around. So I'm just like, wow, what's Ferdinand up to? And the fact that he's being told right now that, oh, you're going to be kind of in charge of like relaying the new princess that they're going to be sending over to live in the 𝙁𝙬𝙧𝙦 Palace. How do you... I never pronounced that name right, but still, it's just like, okay, we're gonna have a new princess, and him being a seed of that same place, it puts him in a very conflicting, compromising position. Like, he's emotionally compromised to that entire situation, and it sucks.
It's kind of ironic that Lanzenave wants to send a princess over and Ferdinand is caught between his duties as administering the duchy. He has that duty, but he also was a victim of such a terrible tradition. And I think this kind of also spells a little bit of foreshadowing with what could happen. We're like, oh, so we're kind of going to start bringing this subplot in. Like, we learned about this barely at the end of part 4, but now it's like, oh, so now this is something we might have to deal with going forward. So another thing that I'm kind of like worried about when I read this chapter is that Georgine is absolutely nowhere to be seen. If everybody is so sus of Ferdinand, that he's, oh, we have to keep an eye out on him. I mean, they read his emails. So why is Georgine not taking part of the governing of the duchy? She's absolutely nowhere. She just withdrew in her villa. So, what is Georgine doing at this time? We have to think about that and wonder what just happened in Ehrenfest. So we're gonna see.
We also learned that she has a lot of support from the Werestock people. Because like they provided mana, but she never told them where the mana came from. So it's just like, oh, Georgine brought us all this mana. Praise Georgine. Meanwhile, Ehrenfest is just like, my poor mana.
Yeah. And another thing, I think it's the third one that I wanted to point out, is the scholars and how they are blind, or they're willfully being blind to the potential conflict that's brewing, or that's gonna brew eventually, with the power-hungry Ďatlin and the future of Letizia when succession time comes. So nobody wants to say it, but Ferdinand thinks it. She's not going. It's gonna be problematic if the time comes, or when the time comes, that Letizia has to take over as Ob. I don't think Ďatlin is gonna go down just like that, so willfully give up her position of power.
Like mother, like daughter. So my thing on that girl. I mean, yes, she is woefully incompetent, and very much. She's a narcissist to a greater degree. I have not seen a narcissist in my life that is like her. But man, oh man, oof, borders headache-inducing.
Yeah, I could only read, man, that chapter where she appears, I was like, I hate you, I want to wring your neck. I don't like her at all.
It would have been just like her too, if he hadn't been corrected.
Yeah, probably. In the last chit-chat, I took issue with the fact that Rozemyne went and she blabbed to royalty all about what Ferdinand had told her in her letter, and thus potentially brought more suspicion on herself and on Ferdinand. But now I am glad that this chapter tells us that this was all by design. Ferdinand told Rozemyne to inform the royal family about the archive right away, even at the risk of increasing suspicion about himself, so that the royal family could also become suspicious of Ross and forbid her from going into the archive. So the plan would have succeeded, except that we just didn't foresee the fact that the royal family can't even read the ancient language, and they had to have the use of the children. So Chapter 1. Yes, we're in Chapter 1.
Translator number 1, Miss Suspicious.
Chapter 1. Rozemyne meets Sigiswald. She is shocked, of course, because nobody told her that in the meeting with Anastasius that he would be there. She's upset that they find her suspicious because they just keep asking her all these stupid questions, so she outright tells them that she's telling them all the information, yet they have access to all of it. So if they have time to interrogate her and ask her where she got that information, they can just go to the library themselves.
She's gotten away with speaking very crudely with each prince now. Every single one of them. Oof. She has some power.
Well, they each both got what they wanted. So Sigiswald got to be king, and Anastasius got the woman he loves, so they both owe her a great deal right now.
Yeah. And I think it kind of helps that she looks like a 7-year-old. How much are you going to punish a little kid? She looks like a shoemill. She looks adorable. I mean, that certainly is going to help her to not be, beheaded for her insolence.
I mean, she's already been attempted assassination.
So away they all go to the library, where they're going to open up the place to investigate about these claims, whether or not they're true. So at the library, Rozemyne and Hannelore, they register their keys, and they head down to the archives. And little by little, they shed their retainers because there are doors where people below a certain mana point can't enter. And at the end, when they reach finally the actual door, Hildebrand can't enter the archive and wails in despair, showing his frustration at not having a shot at Zenthood. Poor precious cinnamon roll. Now here, Rozemyne is also being forced to enter by royal command. Let's remember that her guardians told her and forbade her from entering the archive. But because she can't say no to a royal, she very unwillingly goes in there, So Ross is being forced to enter by royal command, and she does actually go, and she finds some very, very important stuff. One of the things she discovered there was a description of important rituals for the person taking over as Zent, and the spells for new divine instruments, which Rozemyne didn't already know. The funny thing is that the royals suspect Rozemyne of wanting to get, her hands on the 𝙁𝙬𝙧, but they are leaving it to Rozemyne to translate the stuff that they need. And even Hannelore, who is another little kid, she has a better grasp on the language. She can do it much better than the princess who...
They need to get in the game. That's what they need to do. They need to get in the game. They're not in the game. They're not running for it. I swear.
Yeah. So here's...
I don't think a lot of people realize how many resources were lost during the Civil War. And it was only 10 years ago still. So it's still very fresh in a lot of people's minds, still having to reel from it. So Dunkelfelger, being the second-ranked duchy, would have presumably more resources at the end of the Civil War, having come out on the winner side of it, than the royal family themselves, who, out of all of the offspring, lost 4 out of the 5 children, and all the staff who supported those children, presumably also with the staff that supported the dead king before this whole feud happened in the first place. The royal family is shell of its former self.
Yeah.
Something that I want to point out is every time somebody went through the barrier that went into the closed archive, Schwartz and Weiss said something to them every time they went through. Now, since that barrier also blocks any sound from going through, only the person that entered and anybody else in the area can hear what they said. So when all the princes went in, Schwartz and Weiss said not enough prayer. But when Rozemyne went in, Schwartz and Weiss said not enough prayer, not enough mana.
It's opposite. When mine went in, she only had the 1. Everyone else got the 2.
Yeah, so for...
Was it the opposite?
So not enough elements and not enough prayer. That was for the princess and for Hannelore.
Yeah, Rozemyne has enough elements. She's omni-elemental.
She just doesn't have prayer.
But we don't know what that means necessarily.
I personally think it's specific prayers. Not just prayers in general. I think it's specific prayers they're looking for.
I think, as I've alluded to before in a previous chip chat, I think it has to do with the prayers that Hermione has been doing that have been dedicated to a specific god in the Royal Academy. Every single one of those every single one of those lights that fly up into the sky to God knows where. She's made one for most of the primary gods now.
So she needs to do all 7 gods to shoot the laser beams in the sky, and then maybe some door will open up, presumably somewhere.
You know, I think it has to do with Gramps.
Gramps.
Well, that comes later when we learn about the Library Foundation, but
yeah.
Let's cut back to order.
Yeah, we probably if we go into too much, I would probably spill out all kinds of spoilers. So please hold me back. Hold me back.
Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway, we got the new 3 spells.
But I actually did count how many of those colored lights she made between last volume and this one. I think she almost did all of the 7 ones.
She hasn't done the white one herself yet.
Yes, she did. She did.
Herself?
Yeah. When she was teaching Wilfrid the prayer, she got out the sword on herself. She said the prayer and white light went off. So she already did the life.
She did that in a sense, but if we're having to if we're relating it more to the divine weapon or something, then I'd say she hasn't yet.
Well,
'cause she hasn't done anything with the crown yet.
That's true, I guess. Well, we'll see. I don't know if it's necessary to have the thing or not. I don't know. I'm just saying that we had the light shoot out to places for all the colors now. So who knows what
Right, yeah, it's not necessarily the instrument. It could be more related to the prayer and directed to the god or goddess.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that Sigiswald didn't realize that he would need to actively order Rozemyne to violate the order from her guardians for entering the archive. I kind of thought that he would have been a little bit more mature or aware of his need for that, which also kind of goes towards the current Zent family not being properly trained in what is expected of them.
Yeah. You know what I noticed? Like his side story, he was super on guard. He was really suspicious of Rozemyne, and Anastasia was the one that was like, no, she's not, malicious. But he really had his guard up. But the way Rozemyne saw him, she saw him from her point of view as being super chill. Like he was like, oh, he's so nice, gave her a smile.
How could she possibly believe his smile knowing Ferdinand?
Well, I think after Ferdinand,
Ferdinand is Ferdinand.
Yeah.
She knows Ferdinand. She understands him on an instinctual level.
And yet she was able to actively see the exhaustion, I guess it's for later, but the exhaustion on Zent's face during the dedication ritual. So she's able to pick up on those things. It kind of baffles me why she didn't pick up on the high likelihood that was a fake smile.
I'm guessing that Sigiswald, when he saw Rozemyne, being so small and so cute, maybe he underestimated. He's like, yeah, there's no way that such a kid would do something nefarious. So maybe he's been a little bit won over. Dunkelfelger's ritual.
So, Dunkelfelger's ritual is a very interesting thing. See, we never seen any traditions in any other duchy until this point. Until this point. And the fact that Rozemyne sees that it's supposed to be a prayer, and she half-baked does it perfectly, is hilarious.
Yes. Rozemyne devises a questionnaire for all the Dither participants so they can quickly and efficiently gather the needed information for their research. And Ralph, and he's like, yes, let's play treasure stealing Dither. And she's like, we're gonna play speed Dither. And so the Dunkelfelger people, they do their ritual, which is a song and a dance, and it's led by Lestalot. In this song and dance, they don't offer their mana when they pray. But they're still really, really on fire for the game. And this gets all the other Dunkelfelger spectator kids on fire as well. Now, after they're done, Rozemyne is like, yeah, our kids are super unmotivated. I'm gonna help them. So she does the same thing. Of course, she doesn't know how to do the dance, but she produces her Leidenschaft spear, and it's a thing of beauty, shocks everybody. And then, after they finish the song, her mana shoots out of her spear, And there's a magic circle drawn in the air. There's a shower of lights because it's a blessing. And then, of course, some of her mana went off flying somewhere, again.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Can I make another point on this one? I loved how her mana is so great. It made her fellows overperform to where they underperformed.
Yes.
It was so funny.
Yeah, she basically cursed them. The over blessing actually turned out to be more of a curse than a blessing. And after they're done, Hannelore shows them how the Dunkelfelder people finish a dinner, and she does a ritual using the Here we go. Here's where the German people are gonna take issue. Berfirmir staff, suck it. Berfirmir staff. So the goddess of the oceans has a divine instrument which Hannelore uses to bring down the heat and just calm everybody down.
Here's my desire. I want an audiobook so I can actually hear the names of these gods.
You and me both.
The fact of the matter is the amount of unknowing people are to the god. Like, all right, I understand that people don't like the church, but man, oh man, when you're spouting the names of gods and you don't believe in them, I find it to be a very weird problem.
Yeah, well, we could talk all about religion even in our own world, and how some people are just like, religion is just part of the culture. Like, when it's part of your day-to-day life, like, it's not necessarily something that you believe in. Like, it's just rote, So I get it.
Considering you can use magic to literally stop time in a space with a tool, of course, but
Here's a comparison. When I stub my toe and yell Jesus Christ, I'm not thinking of Jesus Christ when I say it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When you're actively praying for a spell, or when you're actively trying to get, blessings, I mean...
Well, yeah, but we view it from an outside world. For them, it's just a matter-of-fact thing. When I wave my arm and say, watch, and water comes out, I don't have to think too much about it, other than the fact that, I might be a little tired now because my mana's lower. Like, it's just a daily life thing to them. Mm-hmm. They don't think too hard about it, especially if they're not told to. They're not told to revere the fact that these gods things are real and that they'll get better if they do these, things for them. They're ignorant to the fact of their magic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just imagine telling them.
I just like the image of that. I say wash it and water comes out. You can't explain that. it's like that one, the one with the tides. Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that.
Yeah, it's just
imagine us trying to tell people that we've convinced a rock to think by pouring electricity through it.
Gregory, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna throw in there about I don't know, when Rozemyne explained to Ferdinand that, hey, I just pray to these gods and stuff happens, and he's just kind of flabbergasted, right? Because they just don't think about it. If you grow up into that environment and such, you're just not gonna really think about it. So I don't know, I think it's perfectly viable that they don't think about any of this stuff. They haven't seen really, I guess, direct proof that the gods exist, really. I mean, sure, they kind of talk about it and such, but they don't have true proof of seeing a corporeal being or anything.
I think I'm gonna blame the lack of mana in the population. The fact that everybody has so little, even when they're archdukes or arch nobles and stuff, the bar is super low, all things considered.
Yeah, but I mean, it's once again the whole I mean, if you kind of akin it to I guess real world stuff in a sense, it's okay, if you start with low mana, how do you get more mana, right? You're not going to have enough resources to get more mana. I mean, it's the whole thing how lay nobles can get better musical education because they couldn't afford better music teachers. So it compounds itself. So I don't know. I don't necessarily blame the people involved for being in their own environment, but like, yeah, it does suck that they can't like grasp like this kind of like religious aspect until it's like right in front of them. I mean, 𝙁𝙗𝙧 wasn't really that religious until he saw Rozemyne's blessing and realized, oh crap, yeah, this is like legit, and you know, like learning more about that stuff, and now he's like super into all these like temple ceremonies and stuff because of Rozemyne.
It's funny how you mentioned 𝙁𝙗𝙧, because we get a Clarissa moment. Never will I ever get tired of Clarissa or 𝙁𝙗𝙧 giving their over-the-top speeches. I know some people don't like them, but I live for them. And
I live.
yeah,
No, I'm all for you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and then
Hartman.
the one with Clarissa in this chapter, this one has to be one of my favorites of all time. She's just so crazy. I love it. Chef's kiss. I want more.
And I love how they just Rozemyne just sends Clarissa off to write the report just to get out of her hair, and she's like absolutely ecstatic about it. It's just like it's such a trope that she's so off, but I just love it. It just fits her so perfectly.
Yeah, those two are made for
Maybe
each
you get
other.
to read it later.
Yeah, and we also learn in this volume that there's a lot of history. You know, 𝙁𝙗𝙧𝙪 is like a very old duchy, and they have a long record of books and stuff like that. And we learn more about the mythology and all the gods that we didn't even know about in this volume. I was really happy about that. More lore, please.
It makes me wonder what 𝙁𝙗𝙧 has.
𝙁𝙗𝙧, yeah, that's the brainy duchy. Too bad that 𝙁𝙗𝙧 has no ties to 𝙁𝙗𝙧 at all. You know, not like they're friends to one of them. I'm just saying that Wilfrid could definitely be milking that friendship way more than he already is. Okay, talking and telling, 𝙁𝙗𝙧𝙪 and 𝙁𝙗𝙧 scholars, they gather to go through the data they collected. People are surprised that Rozemyne's knights are also very competent scholars. And while this is happening, Rozemyne is having a conversation with Hannelore, and we learn that Hannelore has some strange delusions that Clarissa is giving it her all for the sake of her engagement with 𝙁𝙗𝙧. She's been reading so many romantic stories that now she thinks she sees romance everywhere she goes, so she thinks that Clarissa is undyingly in love with 𝙁𝙗𝙧, and that her love is pure and blah blah blah, and Rozemyne's like, no, that's not true. There's more information about the ritual that Hannelore performed and the words to the prayer. And also, Rozemyne gives tips so that the 𝙁𝙗𝙧𝙪 kids can receive blessings the next time they do their pre-dinner ritual, and encourages them to donate mana as they do the ritual, as well as in the temple, so they can also produce Leidenschaft's spear.
When Hannelore and Rozemyne are talking about her doing the prayer and the sounds of the waves and stuff like that, and she's like, oh, well, we've never heard the waves before. I'm just kind of like wondering in my head, it's like, why is no one else pointing out, like, how do you know that sound, Rozemyne? Aren't you also landlocked too, question mark? You're like,
yeah.
So we were talking about Clarissa just a moment ago. Clarissa, a beautiful minded woman. I can't wait for her to graduate so she can move out of 𝙁𝙗𝙧𝙪, so that she can embrace her passion, which is Rozemyne.
Imagine they have two to deal with now.
But just the fact that they are a dangerous pair. If you piss them off in any fraction, they will kill you. Gleefully.
Yeah, she's a scholar of the sword. Do not underestimate her abilities.
Don't do anything or say anything about Rozemyne. She'll stab you with lots of blood.
Scholar of the sword. I really like the Knight of the Quill. I think that's like a clever saying.
Frustrating tea parties. There is no need for Rozemyne to return to Ehrenfest for the dedication ceremony. She stays to socialize, but it is frustrating and she does not like it. It's frustrating because lower duchies kiss up to Ehrenfest and badmouth Ehrenfest and Sylvester for taking advantage of such a saintly girl as Rozemyne, while at the same time looking down on her temple upbringing and on the temple itself. And no matter how much Rozemyne tries to correct people's way of thinking, she's frustrated because they don't listen. She wants to clarify the role of the temple and just how crucial it is, but nobody is listening to her. This is why the joint research with Dunkelfelder is so important to her. The worst thing about this chapter, however, or for Rozemyne, is the cousins' tea party. I mean, she wants to go so she can hear more about Ferdinand and ascertain whether he's doing okay, get some intel, but 𝙁𝙁 is just beyond unbearable. This girl, she's arrogant, conceited, vain, and she thinks of Ferdinand as someone that is just barely worthy to stand next to her. She shows no filial piety since she is prioritizing socializing rather than being with her sick father. Or so Rozemyne thinks. And the worst thing is that she demands that Rozemyne teach her how to glow while doing the dedication whirling so that she can show off during her graduation. And so all these tea parties and the frustration that it causes culminates in Rozemyne deciding to have all of those that want in on her research to join and dedicate their mana and teach them a lesson while they're at it. Alright, so any thoughts about this chapter?
There's also the fact that 𝙁𝙁 thinks that the song that Ferdinand, the Goddess of Earth song, thinks that Ferdinand created it, and that it's, well, I guess he technically did compose it, but
composed
it's
it
like
for her.
he created it for her.
Yeah, no. Talk about
Technically
delusion.
arranged it.
Rozemyne is willing to let him have all the credit of writing, composing, whatever, just so it'll help him. But the audacity.
He doesn't even have a hidden room yet, apparently.
Dude, and the implications of not having a hidden room, that means that he doesn't have a place where he can just unwind. Remember, nobles, they always have to be like stoic, collected. They don't have a place except their hidden rooms to just unwind, relax, decompress. He has nothing of that. That means he doesn't get to brew, he doesn't get to just do any of his scientific researches. Like, he's just there to work and always be spied on. What a toll that must be on his physical well-being. Ugh.
I can't even imagine, because this has never happened to me. I can't imagine how it feels to have your guardians badmouthed to a point where it's like you're trying to correct them, and then they're continually putting your guardians down, and it's like, people, do you not listen to your own speech?
She basically explodes when Wilfrid shows more worry over 𝙁𝙁, and when she expresses that she's more worried about Ferdinand, Wilfrid dismisses her concerns, saying that Ferdinand can take care of himself. And then she replies saying that Ferdinand is not in the same position that he was in when he was in Ehrenfest. Ferdinand has few people he can trust and no environment in which to make new magic tools. And on top of protecting himself, he must also protect Lady Letizia. So yeah, Wilfrid, he's the one that's cold, because Wilfrid was accusing Rozemyne of being a cold girl for not being sympathetic to 𝙁𝙁.
Here's red flag number one that I'll touch upon later. I'm gonna go off on Wilfrid today, so I'm saving it for later.
But if I can go off on 𝙁𝙁 for a second, just her lack of care for at all about her father, because like she seems just like, oh, whatever, this is just expected, So like the presumed like face that they're putting up, it's like, oh no, my father is dying, actually probably dead, yes, and she's like, she doesn't care at all, like if anyone's supposed to be like looked down on, it's her, and then the fact that she doesn't even realize that she's a temporary ob, like all of her other retainers and the people around her just like shielding that information with the excuse that, oh, she was the daughter of a third wife that wasn't even presumed to be set up for anyone, and then like if they have that sort of opinion, it almost kind of makes me wonder about like what was Florencia's education then, because she was in a very similar situation, at least from my understanding. So it's just 𝙁𝙁's just even worse. I don't know. She's just the worst.
Yeah, she has bad genes, and she has, yeah.
No, she has decent genes. She's just a narcissist to an nth degree.
Well, I mean,
that's the
it's
problem.
Bad genes if she has Gabrielle blood, and she has Veronica blood, and she has Georgine blood. That's bad genes right there. I'm sorry.
No, what's in her veins is hate.
Ooh, that's so metal.
So what I think maybe like what's in Georgine's veins might be hit. I think what in Dschilean's veins is just pure narcissistic vanity.
There we go.
There was one line from Rozemyne that I hope is foreshadowing. That's just like, she can explode for all I care. I'm just like, please.
Wait, I don't think she said it, but she thought it. That was when she's like, at this point, she's just like, I'm over this girl. So with all of that frustration, no wonder Rozemyne decided to just do a little bit of scheming in the next chapter. And when she decides to put all these people to work, if they want to like take advantage of her, well, they have to like suffer for it. And boy, will they.
That escalated quickly.
Oh, and I'll need permission from the royal family, that line?
Yeah, like it escalated to one family, to just a few handfuls, to the entire school, basically. It escalated quickly.
Yes. Yeah, there's...
Despite someone who doesn't even show up. Meanwhile, there's like 50 people lined up already.
I know, even like people from the upper duchies, the greater duchies join in. So yeah, in this chapter, it was one ominous way to end the chapter. After she sets her plan in motion, she thinks, oh, and I'll need the permission from the royal family too. I mean, there goes the plan to not get involved with the royals. Out the window. Huzzah.
It's a great way to ingratiate yourself to the royal family.
That is true. And where she want to actually, people could be saying like, ooh, she is a schemer, but she really isn't. But yet she is. She just doesn't know it, but she just knows how to maneuver things and gets away with it.
She's a schemer in the short term.
The chapter title calls her out as a schemer.
I find she's only a schemer when you piss her off.
I don't know. There's many times where I've seen her do a little scheming, and it's all in the name of books.
All new books and almost always a business plan.
I think the way she handled Tragon was pretty smart.
She didn't have to kill him, so that's good.
All right, doing a little scheming. Let's move on. So, by involving the middle and lesser duchies into the joint research, Ehrenfest wouldn't have to play Ďider over and over again during the research, and Dunkelfelger gets many people to play with. Also, Rozemyne will be able to fill the chalices of the dedication ceremony and at little mana cost to herself, and to improve the reputation of temple rituals. Next, the mana-deprived royal family would get all the mana donated, and the participants would receive recognition and thanks from the king. So in her mind, everybody wins, or at least she comes out on top. And those lesser and middle duchies, they can get what they're coming after they totally dismissed her and dismissed all of her claims during the tea parties. Rozemyne shares her plans with Hildebrand and asks permission via ordinance, but Anastasius is the one that replies, and he summons her and Hannelore. Now, we learn in this chapter that Dunkelfelger, ever since the ritual that they had, Dunkelfelger has been on fire. They have now learned to do the pre-Ďider ritual and dedicate mana while they're doing it. And so because of this, they are now creating huge pillars of light in their dorm, and I think they're also learning how to create the Leidenschaft spear. I think so. Anyway, Rozemyne herself asks the royal family to participate in this ritual that she has in mind. I doubt she meant to include the Zent. She was just opening it up to, Anastasius and Hildebrand, probably, maybe the wife, But no, the Zent got involved. I doubt she meant to involve him. But man, girly, props for her scheming there. And I just lost my mind when I realized that her little school project had developed into a very, very important and very serious thing when the freaking king and the royal family got involved.
So, after all she does for this royal family, after every minute, even of her own time, yes, they have ordered her to do it, but the amount of help she gives the royal family, I mean, how can you stay suspicious when she is literally giving you leaps and bounds of things you need? Like, get you a whole bunch of mana, check. Make there not be a succession crisis, check. I don't understand.
She is just so generous that it's suspicious.
scheming and manipulation of this order is relatively common in noble society here. Like Elvira said herself, if a man can't scheme against his enemies, what good is he?
That's true.
See, that's
so
what-
Yeah, and
true.
all of her actions are just completely out of ordinary, and they're just looking at, okay, what is she up to? No one would do this. Okay, maybe she's just trying to get close to us. Maybe she knows more than she's letting on, and she already knows the location, and she's just trying to get to it. You know, there's like a lot of stupid theories they could be thinking when they're just, the simple answer is, no, she's stupid. She likes books. Ugh.
Yeah, like our little chaos demon is a walking, talking bundle of red flags for noble society as someone you need to watch out for as a master manipulator, even though she's completely innocent and doesn't even have that on her mind at the time.
Yeah, I think the only one that truly is starting to really understand her is Anastasius. He's the one, I believe, that is closest to understanding Rozemyne.
After all, he has the longest history with her. It's already been, 3 years? Is this the 3rd year? Yeah, this is 3rd year. So, and I mean, their relationship started off with a bang. I mean, she was super sarcastic to him the moment that she greeted him first. So he's just had to deal with it, you know?
He's had a very frank conversation with her where he allowed her to speak freely, and she chose to. And he was like, oh, wow, okay, you don't care that I'm a noble at all. You don't see me as a person that is higher than you. You're just like, yo, what's up, boys? And that's scary to people.
That's true. I mean, he even saw her like when she passed out. Like, nobody passes out when they're in the middle of a meeting with royalty. Like, he's seen it all, or so far. So yeah, presumably. So we'll see. That's that relationship with Anastasius and that friendship between 𝙁𝙤𝙤𝙧 and Rozemyne. That's all a very interesting dynamic. But at least she helped him win his heart's desire, which seriously earned her a lot of brownie points, in my opinion. So, here's another thing. Another thing that I liked about this chapter was how when Ralphin sees Rozemyne again, he thanks Rozemyne for her generosity of sending more opponents to them. They even held a banquet in her honor, and I don't know. I just can't with these dinnerheads. They're so adorable. I love all these people.
So
I have a note here that says, like, yeah, I don't really want a reputation like that. Thanks. I think that was like her internal thoughts at that moment.
I think it's actually good for the other duchies to like really think about dinner for themselves. Like, they might not be true dinnerheads, but forcing them to compete would make them stronger.
Joint research projects. They are moving along pretty much as expected. With Roundshell, the other duchy scholars are beating them with originality of ideas and just sheer execution. We talked about with Arensback before, everything is going swimmingly. Rozemyne and Raymond are working really well together. Now, as they're preparing for the ritual, 𝙁𝙗𝙗 comes over and he assists her with the things required for the ceremony because, remember, they have to use all the implements from the Ehrenfest temple. They're not going to use the sovereignty temple stuff. So they bring in all the things from Ehrenfest. So 𝙁𝙗𝙗 is the head priest. So he's the one that's going to manage all the stuff. Here's where they learn that the king will join them to offer mana and to thank the participants. And this is a pretty big deal because the only way to get direct praise from the king is to come first in class. And of course, everybody freaks out. But, not Rozemyne. Rozemyne says that if giving mana is such a big deal, she can offer everybody that participates rejuvenation potions as a participation reward. She wants to give the kindness-filled potions, but everybody shoots her down because those, even though they're kindness-filled, they are terrible. They taste awful. So they settle on a potion that rejuvenates mana but doesn't relieve exhaustion.
That reminds me of the first time Charlotte and Wilfrid drank the kindness-infused potions. And their thoughts were, is this a joke? Like, are you trying to poison me on purpose or something? Like, am I getting punked? Where's the secret camera? They thought Rozemyne was being malicious. And that was the kindness-infused one. You don't even want to know what the original tasted like.
Oh man, that was awful.
Apparently, the way Rozemyne explained it is, you can't taste anything else for days.
The detail that was kind of overlooked in this chapter was the magic paper results from Durantshall, and their kind of improvements. Specifically, the one that I liked the most was when they were just like, oh, we can just write out a musical score and then put a face stone over top of it, and then it'll just play music as we run it across.
Unfortunately, the people that are doing most of the research are the 𝙁𝙪𝙣𝙪 kids. The Ehrenfest kids, they're just like at a loss. They're like almost giving up on doing something amazing because they're just been overshadowed by what the 𝙁𝙪𝙣𝙪 duchy is doing with their stuff.
Give me an 𝘿𝙪𝙣 POV.
𝘿𝙪𝙣. He wanted to steal, he wanted to reverse engineer a potion. I tell you, Wilfrid could have like really taken like some notes from Rozemyne and learned how to extract information from greater duchies, but well.
Here is red flag number 2.
Red flag number 2. So on the day of the ritual, Hildebrand is there to open the furthest hall for her and her people to prepare the place. But then he is shocked to learn that everybody will have to leave their guards outside of the chamber. To deal with the threat of dangerous people entering, Rozemyne decides to make the people walk through a 𝙁𝙬𝙧 shield. And this is where the chapter ends. I mean, what a significant little bit of information she omitted from that guide that she gave to the royals, because she told him like, here's the stuff that you need to know for the day. She did not mention the fact that they would have to leave behind their guards. Like, seriously, Rozemyne? Seriously? You can't take it for granted that people will just so easily leave behind their guards.
He assumed it was common knowledge.
She keeps doing that though, but nobody knows about these rituals. She has to teach them everything.
I blame the church faction. The church faction and the royal faction, them being at odds is such a problem.
It is a problem. Though you have to think about it, nobody who has ever done the church ritual, the dedication ritual, ever had to walk in or ever had guards to leave behind. They only had maybe their gray-robed attendant, and the gray-robed attendant doesn't have any mana, so they're not gonna, it doesn't matter whether they go on or stay. But Rozemyne, who's an Archduke candidate, this is where it actually comes important. Your scholars, your attendants, they have to stay behind.
Based on all of her common sense off of Ferdinand, she's like, oh, well, Ferdinand does that. I surely am allowed to do that. No.
And once again, Rozemyne fails to lay the foundation for anything she doesn't plan ahead for.
Yeah.
I blame society that was that I blame the current society.
We live in a society.
The past society probably didn't have these problems.
Yep, we do live in a society, and she does also. All right, so let's go to the Royal Academy's dedication ritual. This is where Thorkel appears. I don't know how you say the name, I don't care. Thorkel appears. He has silver blue hair like Hildebrand. He has facial features like Anastasius. And the poor man looks unwell, and Rozemyne can tell that he has been abusing potions. So he comes in and she tells him like about this shield, blah blah blah. So after they test the strength of her shield, the king agrees to leave behind his guards. Now here's where I found it really interesting to note. 𝙁𝙪𝙣𝙧𝙗 was there, but he managed to weasel his way out of him personally having to test the shield himself. The dedication ritual takes place, and Rozemyne has problems with her mana and is in danger of overflowing because after they tested her shield and after all that stuff, she had to take a potion, but then she also had to take a potion to demonstrate that her potions were not poisonous. So she's really gonna like overflow with blessings. So to deal with this, she decides to cast a large healing blessing and produces a second 𝙁, remembering, by the way, that Ferdinand once did it. He produced multiple little like 𝙁𝙬𝙧 shields in the past. So if he can do it, why can't I? So
we were talking about how she noticed, like in a little earlier, how she noticed Thorkel was, malnourished. That's a very Ferdinand thing she used to do. She used to notice immediately his mental or physical state. I think that's just a Ferdinand thing that she grew to learn, and that's how she noticed it.
I find that she's very good at finding out what people need or what they're lacking or whatever, and she can immediately spot it. So that works for her in her favor.
She works with people, so she's all things considered, she's a great people person.
Mm-hmm. So when Rozemyne takes her second potion, there's a line that says, "At the time, it hadn't occurred to me what repercussions this might have." And while this does apply to her drinking a second potion and probably overflowing, that statement is basically encompasses all of Rozemyne's entire character. She, at the time when she's doing the things, the crazy things, she just does not know what repercussions this might have. I love that line. It's so Rozemyne-ish.
I actually hate that line, to be completely honest. I wish they didn't so heavily lampshade it. It's just let the thing happen. Let her incompetence come to light as it happens. Like, saying it now, like, lets me know. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea now?
Has there been a way she's made that hasn't bitten her in the rear?
But Fergie, I wonder if that wasn't added just in the book itself. So in the web novel, we have the 𝙁𝙪𝙣𝙧𝙪 side story comes first, and then comes Rozemyne's point of view. In the web novel, we have the chapter where we see that everything's going smoothly. Rozemyne just, she just whips out a second 𝙬𝙗 like no big deal, and everybody's impressed. Everything goes well. And then afterwards, we get to see that Rozemyne inside is screaming all the time. She's like, what do I do? What do I do?
Actually, I might think that line came naturally, because if her, like, the other POV was there first, then it would be her quickly recapping the series of events, being like, yeah, when I took it at the time, I didn't realize. So it almost seems like it would flow better, like a past tense story, instead of it happening during the events,
Rozemyne is a master at failing upwards.
Yes.
Task failed successfully, right? So because of this dedication ritual, she is likened to Miss Theonora by Hannelore and Eglantine, and just everybody is in awe of seeing the beauty of the divine instruments. Of course, she's sending out beams of light and mana that flies off who knows where. We get at least two more, the red one and the green one. And during this dedication ritual, Rozemyne demonstrated that she can heal the entire Royal Knights Order with almost no mana expenditure. She has a shield that is immune to seemingly everything and can weed out traitors. She gives out highly effective mana potions like it's nothing. She can just afford to give them out, like whatever. She's super chill with the royal family, the Anastasius is her homie, and she can wield two 𝙬𝙗s and form divine tools. She can't hope to fly under the radar or not be sought after by everyone else from this point on. She seriously is like digging her own grave in every respect during this dedication ritual. There's no turning back.
He also offered potions that the king willingly accepted, and everyone else is just like, what? Poison? But no, what?
Especially with given how the third prince in his family, Eglantine's family, perished.
They died by poisoning. The entire family was... Imagine if Rozemyne had actually been malicious. She could have wiped out everybody there and just proclaimed herself as queen.
There was so many security risks. Okay, sure, we put the Shasteria shield up and they came in. They had no malicious intent. Cool. Once then we put down the shield. I have malicious intent now. Stab, stab, stab.
Yeah. Somebody has to write a dark Rozemyne story.
Well, when they were testing the shield, didn't Roblot actually go in the shield?
No.
And then which was it then that entered?
He sent a soldier. He gave him orders to go in without malicious intent. The guy went in successfully because he had no ill will or didn't draw a sword or anything. And the moment he drew a sword from his 𝙬𝙗, he was kicked out. So Roblot he weaseled his way out of testing it.
The shield wasn't up the entire time. They put down the shield before the ritual started.
Yeah.
When Mine was talking about when she was able to summon a second shop, she implied that Ferdinand was able to summon at least three, at least more than two. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. So I actually went into Reddit and I found somebody who explained it. I didn't get a source, they didn't say what fan book or where, but apparently in a fan book, they explained that knights practice to think a weapon and shield as a pair or one set of tools. So they're together. They're not different tools, they're just one tool. Shield and sword, they're one tool. And both are made of one 𝙬𝙗. So Rozemyne does not know. She just thinks that, well, you're able to get one step and then another step and then another step. So we don't know if exactly how Ferdinand thought of how he was able to make multiple little shields of wind. Maybe he thinks of it like the way that the knights did, because it took training for them to think of their weapons like that. So I think with that kind of training, he was able to do it. But Rozemyne, she just, by faith, she was able to do it. So that's super crazy.
It's the same preconception issue that allowed her to mold her face stone back together like clay. Like she just doesn't have the concept of what's possible or what should be possible. She just has what might be possible, and there's a leagues of variation difference between those two.
Yeah.
And it's also why she's so creative compared to everybody else.
So this is my only good flag for Wilfrid in this one, is right here. Him taking a decent charge of this, of helping Rozemyne. This is like his one good moment in this book.
How generous. Thank you for finding some positivity there.
And good on Charlotte. Goodness gracious, she would have drained everyone dry if Charlotte didn't stop her.
So yeah, she has a good function there. Now, let's talk about what happens with the mana that they collected. So they agreed that they were going to give them mana for the royals because, you know, royalty is really struggling to fill the magic tools and whatever foundations for the country. So they brought empty face stones, but apparently they didn't bring enough because they still had leftover mana in the 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧𝙙 chalice. So then she's given permission to take the leftover mana to the library. And they pour this into a foundation of the library. And when they do that, the Shumils say that Gramps is happy because of the mana. And we still don't know who is Gramps or what he has to do with it, but I think we're getting more clues here because he is tied to the library foundation.
It was mentioned earlier when they were looking at the slates in the library basement that those white slates, they might be connected to that foundation. So if that foundation were to run out, then those resources there would all disappear. So it's a good thing that they got to it in that time.
Yep. So what were all of your impressions of Zent Chorqual?
Oh, yeah. I have a note here that says there was a sickly sweet scent coming from the Zent as he passed by.
A sickly sweet scent. I missed out on that one.
I took that to be a reference to the same scent that she got off Ferdinand for the potion abuse.
Yeah, I agree. It's a effect of potion abuse.
Zent Chorqual seems to be chill. He is certainly overdoing it with the potions. At least he is, you know, an understanding kind of king. Kind of get a little sympathetic towards him, and at least I did. I'm like, the man's doing his best. He wasn't trained to be a king, but here he is doing his best. So we're sympathetic. At least I'm sympathetic. Now let's do...
Oh yeah, I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah. Let's do tea parties and negotiations. Next chapter. Rozemyne and Will go to the tea party with Dunkelfelder after this. Lestalot shows them the images he made for a Dither story, though they don't actually end up purchasing any for now because of reasons that, well, it doesn't really matter, but basically he has to think about whether he's really going to be okay with them having to modify his drawings a little bit, you know, for printing, because just because a picture is nice doesn't mean that it'll actually print properly. Rozemyne's craftsmen will have to modify it in order for it to actually show up and look good on paper.
They're a long time away from laser jet printers, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So that is why he's like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that idea. I would much rather do it myself. Rozemyne's like, no, you're not getting close to this technology. Wilfrid, meanwhile, is like, yo, Rozemyne, how could you say that? The pictures are beautiful. How can we... I'm like, Wilfrid, come on, my boy. And I know Honor Wolf is trying to say here something like, here's another red flag. Yes, I totally agree. Because Wilfrid, he's not understanding that this is not a hobby. This is not, you know, like some fun undertaking. No, this is a business. It's a duchy business. And they can't afford to mess this up because it's going to play into the future with future artists that they want to have drawing for art for their books. So he doesn't quite understand it yet, but Rozemyne luckily does, and she stands up for herself, and she doesn't care if it's 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧 that she's talking to. She has her opinion. She voices her opinion. Good on her. Next, they talk about their joint research and how will they present the results. And after this, they split up. The boys go to play 𝙁𝙪𝙣, while the girls, that is Hannelore and Rozemyne, they sit down to have a tea party and talk.
When this chapter started, she was talking to Wilfried. She's just like, okay, where's the porn mags? Is it under your bed? And that is just like, where did that joke even come from?
Was it about, like, understanding men's hearts or something like that? Was that when that came up?
I don't know, but she completely misunderstood the conversation. Then you're just like, yeah, it's like that time I found my friend's porn mag stashed. And then she starts immediately accusing her, where is it? Is it under your bed? And everyone's like, what are you even talking about?
I mean, there is no porn mags yet in, this land.
What do you mean? The pictures of Ferdinand out in the wild.
All right. So I meant the true degeneracy that is in her old homeland.
Yeah, no, that'd be...
I'm sorry.
I mean, she technically did write some smut earlier.
But it's not illustrated yet.
Pictures of somebody showing their legs is not enough for true degeneracy.
I mean, for their standards.
You don't want many men see you.
For their standards, holding hands is smut.
This chapter. This is the one.
Is this where you're going to go off on Wilfried?
Because this is where they went off on Wilfried.
Okay.
I'm going to go off on Wilfried. As some of you know, we did a read-along recently of another book where we harped on Wilfried. And it happens again with Wilfried present. Big on him for showing that he is not ready to be an Archduke. He cannot see social cues in ways that tell him danger. And the fact of the matter is, he's not, like, as much as Rozemyne tries to prop him up with accomplishments of hers, he's not learning them. And in past books, there's been the complaints of the retainers not growing like Rozemyne's. She is surpassing him every day, and he's not actually moving. And then you have someone like Charlotte who is moving, who is improving. He is woefully inadequate to be an Archduke. I really think he should reconsider being an Archduke. It's just there's too much happening, and he's showing his incompetence every single day. And the fact of the matter is, I think he's starting to realize it himself after he was berated by the Archduke candidate of Dunkelfelger, which, might I say, was quite the burn.
Oh, yeah.
I almost feel like it broke him a little bit.
Yeah, 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧 was spitting facts.
Yeah.
100%.
Agreed. But it was necessary because all this time, Rozemyne is working for the duchy, basically working for his family, and everybody just sees her as this troublemaker, but yet they're reaping the benefits of what she's doing, all her craziness, every day. Unfortunately, Wilfried has been given that position of being an 𝙁 way too quickly. I personally think that Charlotte, poor Charlotte, but yeah. Again, it's a patriarchal society, and anyway.
The only reason Wilfried wants to be 𝙁 is because he was told he was going to be 𝙁 since birth. Like, he doesn't have any actual desire. It's just, oh, this is who I am. Don't take away who I am.
Yeah, and this is again Sylvester's fault. Because again, he didn't want his son to suffer, so he decided that he was just going to make things easy for him.
But knowing Wilfried's suffering. Wilfried is suffering. He just doesn't know he's suffering until this point. And now it's too late to be considered 𝙁. He is woefully unprepared, and he will not make it.
He's been actively failed by almost everybody around him. Most specifically Sylvester and his retainers.
And unfortunately, his grandmother and his mother. As much as I love Florencia, she failed him too. The only one that gave even a shred of care in the proper way, well, actually two people gave shreds of care, was Rayarda and Rozemyne. two people in his life who have spared him, who have cared for him, even though he was annoying.
Oh my
Rozemyne
gosh.
stepped up, 𝘼𝙘𝙾 stepped up.
You guys.
𝘼𝙘𝙾 needed to be Wilfred's person. I understand Rozemyne needed 𝘼𝙘𝙾 too, but Wilfred, my God. So basically, two people in his life have given him the tools necessary, and everybody else has pretty much failed him. And you know what? Ferdinand was too busy to even have a care. The only reason why he even gave two craps was because Rozemyne gave a crap.
In fact, Ferdinand did a lot more for Wilfrid than he really should have done. After all, Wilfrid is the beloved of Veronica, and Veronica was the woman that was repeatedly trying to get Ferdinand killed. Like, if you think about it, Ferdinand had zero reason to lift a finger to help Wilfrid, and yet he did it. He did his best. He even left Wilfrid protective charms to keep him safe. So
here's the reason he did that.
reason.
Rozemyne gave a care.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He had one reason. That was because that's what Rozemyne wanted.
that is true. So there you go.
Confrontation.
A confrontation, yes. After this, while the boys are playing Gewinin and the girls are having their tea party, they are suddenly interrupted by a commotion as 𝘿𝙪 and Wilfrid seem to get into a loud argument. And this is where we go to one of my favorite chapters, Confrontation. Oh my gosh, this chapter was amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. It probably is one of my favorites in the whole book. So, 𝘿𝙪 says that Rozemyne is better suited to be 𝙁 Ehrenfest than Will, and Rozemyne says that she does not seek to be 𝙁, all she wants is to be a first wife and to own her library. Well, 𝘿𝙪 says, if that is all that you want, then become my first wife. And he details why. Her accomplishments, her connections to royalty and the greater duchies, her inventions, abundant mana, divine protections, and all the while Will is calling himself the next 𝙁, even though he knows so little about what will soon be the duchy's primary industry. Plus, she and her retainers are much too excellent for a backwater duchy. He literally says, Ehrenfest has neither the capacity nor the ability to contain you forever, then tries to woo her with the promise of Dunkelfelder's collection of books stockpiled over a long history. And honestly, 𝘿𝙪 is just so damn smooth and intense. I mean, my heart even skipped a beat a little when he told her, come to me, Rozemyne. You know, I just don't blame Rozemyne for wavering, really.
90% of the way there, and then he insulted her, the backwater duchy, which inadvertently insults her Gutenbergs, and she's like, oh no you don't, I'm back to reality, fuck y'all.
Yeah, he almost had her like in the palm of his hand. She was literally going to be like, oh, why yes. But no, you do not say those things about her craftsmen, because Rozemyne remembers that the people in Ehrenfest she cannot be parted from, and she doesn't want to be parted from the people in Ehrenfest that she loves and the library that Ferdinand had given her.
Another thing that he did was insult her original family with that line. Like, he insulted Gunther, Thule, Effa, Camille. He insulted those three.
A running plot through this entire series is that once you get into Myne's family, whatever that term actually means to her, then you will be protected by Myne, and she will do whatever she can to look after you. So if someone insults your family, well then you're immediately my enemy. No.
So since Rozemyne declines, 𝘿𝙪 decides to take her by force and challenges Wilfrid to a game of bride-taking dinner. He, after all, has already gotten the blessing of his parents, and he does not plan to back down even when Hannelore is dragged into it. Oh, poor Hannelore. Oh, man.
This is a potential win for Hannelore.
This could be a real big positive for her.
She's always assumed that her parents, her father and 𝘿𝙪 are going to be the one to choose her marriage, so she's just like, she's used to being jerked around by her older brother. I just feel sorry for poor Hannelore. You would think that 𝘿𝙪 would have loved his sister enough to say no way, my sister's off the table, so he would back down. And this is certainly what Rozemyne thought. If we put Hannelore on the line, he will certainly back off and we can laugh this off as a joke. But no, I love this line at the end of the chapter. When 𝙁𝙁𝙧 doesn't back down, Wilfrid asks, "Are you really willing to put your future in my hands?" And Rozemyne replies, "No game of dither with me, as the treasure will ever be lost, Wilfrid." And here we get ample proof that she's definitely Ferdinand's disciple, because it sounds a lot like his own statement that he will never join a fight that he will never win. It's the same way for Rozemyne. Go girl, show them what you're made of.
That picture that comes with it, it's just like 𝙁𝙁𝙧's cocky face. Man, I just want to punch it.
Okay, I think we have different reactions to 𝙁𝙁𝙧 because I'm a girl and you're a guy. I was like, oh my gosh, he's like so like forceful, but there's something like I really like about it. I don't know. But then I imagine that men are like, no, we don't like this. This is no good.
Too many red flags. He could have been from Klassenberg, man. Shit. But
What?
since everything's blue here, yeah, he's totally Dunkelfeld, the redhead. But also, I want you to find and like bring up the exact copy in the text. It's like there was a specific phrase, pregnant pause. I don't know why. I have that highlighted in my notes here.
You wish to be a first wife and own a library? 𝙁𝙁𝙧 repeated. That can be arranged. Become my first wife, Rozemyne. Then she thinks, excuse me? Then it says, there was a pregnant pause. Then a hysterical voice suddenly rang out. Brother, what are you saying? Be silent, Hannelore, 𝙁𝙁𝙧 said, waving her away. There's your pregnant pause.
I know, but just like, what is a pregnant pause? How long is a pregnant pause? Like, that's such a weird expression.
I've
in
heard
my
it
head.
like
Is that like a Chinese colloquialism or something? I just don't get.
Take it up
It's
with
just an
Quaff.
extended
Waited for
pause.
9
It's like it's only 30 to 45 seconds. It's just one of those things it's a pause where you just have to stop and think about what you're going to say, because what you just heard is so just astronomically outrageous. You don't know how to respond to like that.
So I actually looked it up in Google. It says a pause that gives the impression that it will be followed by something important or significant. As to the word choice, take it up with Quaff. Though the poor man, he already has to field a lot of questions and complaints. Jeez.
You already catch enough flack for the word gremlin.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
I
the
love
gremlin. I love gremlin. There's no other word that would describe it better than gremlin. I mean, dangerous materials is the literal Japanese translation, right? Dangerous goods.
Yeah, Steven works.
Yeah. So I think this works best for our language. Yeah.
It comes from a horror movie, I believe.
No, it doesn't.
It comes from the 1920s when airplanes were just becoming a thing, and problems always crept up in the airplanes. And so British pilots started calling the little creatures causing all the airplanes to fail constantly gremlins, and that's where it came from.
Yes, so I am actually looking for use over time, gremlin. I looked it up on Google, and it's like a flat line all the way up to like 1940 or something like that. Let me put it on the chat so you guys can see it, that I am not kidding. So it was used as like something going wrong in the machinery, not like a creepy creature from the fairy tales. So people need to sit down about this and leave Quaff alone, because gremlin makes total sense in my opinion. And Magpie has spoken. Supreme Empress has given her edict. It makes sense. So, what is it? Back to what we were talking about. They have a few days to get ready for that dither. Hartmut comes in. He brings the sword of 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙀, the god of life, so that Wilfrid can fashion it himself from his stab. Not only that, but he helps them make tools and potions and assists them with prep until the dither day. Rozemyne also goes into the library. She somehow manages to get the permission of a royal, in this case being Hildebrand, in order to go get information on how to make the Berthjormir staff to steal Dunkelfelger's blessing. So the princeling, while they were at it, learned all about the dither match in the process of them going, and he just had some urgent business to take care of and left. That was kind of interesting. That will surely have no bearing in the story at all.
So I think the reason why he chose to help Rozemyne was because I don't want her to be taken by somebody else, as she's already taken by one person. I don't want her to be fought over. If anybody's going to fight over her, it's going to be me, thanks to the brand, I believe. And two, him going away, I think that's foreshadowing. I think I know why he's leaving. Because bride taking dinner, I mean, it's kind of almost exclusively stating that he's going to join the fray.
So we don't actually get confirmation in this volume who exactly was behind the intruders, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll get there later, but
Yeah,
I
we
think
will.
that this is foreshadowing of that.
Yes, this is definitely foreshadowing. We already know that he has his sights on Rozemyne, and all in the goal of marrying her. Like, he's willing to commit treason of the highest sort. So this is certainly going to affect him in some way. Oh, one other thing that I really loved here was earlier when Hannah-Lord warns Rozemyne that 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧 knows of a way to break through her shield. While they're talking about that, Rozemyne tells her that, even if you end up being an Ehrenfest's second wife, because we actually are not serious. If we win, we will let you off the hook. But even if it happens that you move over here to our duchy, like, I will take care of you because we are soulmates, and if you end up here, I'll welcome you with open arms. And this is just so pure and adorable and cute. Like, I love that line. And then, yeah, Hannah-Lord's like, well, as your soulmate, be careful because my brother knows how to break through your shield. So just letting you know, soulmate.
I think when she was given such a confession, it broke her a little bit. She was given such a confession of love, it broke her. When you call someone a soulmate, that's a pretty confession-y.
Yeah, and Hannah-Lord has demonstrated and demonstrates in this epilogue just how hungry she is for somebody to take care of her, to cherish her. As an Archduke candidate of Dunkelfelger, she's expected to take care of herself, to lead people to battle. She has to do it, but that's not something that she really wants to do. Her heart is moved when people say, like, I will protect you. The warmthness and kindness that she hasn't experienced in her own place, that's something that's really attractive to her.
Yeah, and then there was another line that was said by Hannah-Lord. It's just like, I always receive the blame for my brother's actions. I'm just like, poor Hannah-Lord.
Yeah, she's always just dragged around by her brother and silenced by her brother. He doesn't, listen to her. That is why she's so, ends up being so attracted to Wilfrid and just his general vibe, Yeah, but we'll talk about this in the epilogue. So, bride-taking dinner. Dinner happens, and the funniest thing is, before it's taking place, Rozemyne notices that they're setting up some kind of box, a large tool, and it turns out that they're recording the match for Dunkelfelger. He wanted to witness the whole thing, but he was unable to, so the best they could do was compromise and say, we will record it so you can watch it later. So there's a bunch of stuff that they do for attacking and getting, their strategy involves a giant wash-in while Rozemyne sets up a shield. Rozemyne takes away their blessings. They have explosive tools that have mild to severe damage that Judith is throwing at the Dunkelfelder kids. Wilfrid uses the sword of the god of life. Judith attacks the box with the potions so Dunkelfelger thinks that is playing dirty, but it's not. That's a move right out of Ferdinand's page. And, the Dunkelfelger knights, and Rarstark especially, are overwhelmingly powerful. There was an attack that they did that actually knocks Brunhilde unconscious and leaves Rozemyne and Judith as the only ones that are conscious and able to stand. And that is when 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧 breaks through the shield with the darkness face stone shield. And we get that shield in the cover. And speaking of the cover, beautiful cover. It's so good. But yeah, we get to see that black shield that magically makes it so that he can get through Rozemyne's one foolproof shield. Judith gets thrown out the moment she tries to defend Rozemyne and is captured outside. Aw, poor Judith. So then let's talk about 𝙁𝙁𝙧 and Rozemyne inside the shield. So 𝙁𝙁𝙧 wants her to walk out because he can't force her to, since he would be kicked out of the shield. So he has to convince her on her own volition to take his hand and walk out of the base. but she's not going to. She looks around and she sees that everybody in Ehrenfest, they're still fighting, they're still not giving up. So she's like, there's no way I'm gonna give up. I am going to do what I need to do. And up until this point, Rozemyne had a vial of potion, like a potion, a mana restorative potion, because she expended a lot of mana, but she kept putting it off, drinking it, putting it off, unless she absolutely had to. But at this point, she really needs it, and it turns out that this is a potion of the ultra nasty effective sword. It's so nasty that 𝙁𝙪𝙧𝙧 thinks that she's drinking poison and she would rather die rather than marry him, because just how much she grimaces. She actually like collapses and she's like, ugh, like having a fit.
She has grown complacent with the kindness potions.
It's been a while since she had to take the regular potion. She's been taking the kindness infused potion. So now that she tries this one, she's like, I feel like I'm gonna die.
It certainly came out of left field on his perspective. He was like, the heck? Are you killing yourself? Like, do you need that much? Mm-hmm. It came out of left field.
I just love this exchange. And I'm going to read it because I can. So, 𝙁𝙪𝙧𝙧 exclaims, was that poison? He sprinted over at once and dropped to his knees in front of her. She thinks, no, it's not poison, it's medicine. Technically speaking. She wanted to protest, but her body wouldn't let her. It says, I could only lie there with my hands clasped over my mouth and tears welling from my eyes, enduring the horrible taste. My mana recovered with a haste, and some of the tension left my shoulders. And then 𝙁𝙪𝙧𝙧 later says, like, are you really so against moving to Dunkelfelder, Rozemyne? He replied, spiritless. But then she gets up and she's like, I haven't lost Lord 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧. So that was a really great moment.
I'm half surprised he didn't just take the opportunity to pick her up and pack her out.
Yeah, he should have probably done that at that time, right? While she was...
It would be scandalous. It would be scandalous if he did that, though. Scandalous.
But
all in the name of 𝙬𝙧. All in the name of 𝙬𝙧, and he's going to marry her. So if her honor is like besmirched, he's going to marry her. So problem solved.
Yeah, he would have won right there. He didn't. He hesitated. His one moment.
Why 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧?
And it's kind of odd how much consideration he doesn't give to Hannelore, that he all of a sudden seems to be giving to Rozemyne here by not doing that.
It's because he's in love. He's in love. The boys.
Even if he doesn't want to admit it. Nobody draws an illustration like he did without having some sort of feeling. So
Rozemyne drinks the ultra nasty, ultra effective potion because she's running low. And with that, she is able to transform her Stab to Leidenschaft's spear. Again, she has no qualms to face off 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧 because this is, do or die. And she tries to attack 𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧 without much success. Eventually, though, she does manage to hit his shield and turns it into gold dust. This is a Dunkelfelder treasure. It's hundreds and hundreds of years old, I bet. It's made with really precious face stones, and now it is turned into gold dust. He's so aghast that she destroyed the treasure that he is thrown out of the shield, only for them to all look up and see that the 𝙬𝙧 has been interrupted. Dun dun dun! What's going on? Who are these intruders? Before we go on, any other thoughts about this chapter?
So, mental image of Rozemyne swinging around her spear, just all willy-nilly, just to kind of like ding the side of the shield to have it like dissolve into gold dust. It's kind of funny.
Yes.
I could just see him like dodging here and there as he says, "This is not very good form." And then he just, accidentally gets hit. Oops.
Yep.
King.
𝙁𝙁𝙧𝙧 actually says, this is the clumsiest spear fighting I have ever seen, but your weapon certainly is dangerous. So she didn't care about her lack of skill. She was just all about trying to get at him. But get at him she did.
About the spear, I couldn't talk earlier. It has enough power to practically one-shot the Lord of Winter. So... tapping it and expending all its mana to turn a shield made of darkness into dust is pretty on the line of what I think it can do.
That's so crazy. You're right, because just an attack from that That would have like eradicated a Lord of Winter. Wow.
Where's the alternate timeline where he accidentally stabs 𝘿𝙪 with it, immediately just killing him?
Oh, imagine what would have happened. Oh my gosh. No.
I'm sorry, your son challenged me to dinner. I killed him. I guess 𝘿𝙪 is going to be your new 𝙁.
Okay, all of you fanfic writers, have at it. Write it. Come back to us with your finished fanfic. Okay.
Or you can write about him picking her up and just taking her out of the shield.
Yes, they can also do that.
She still had a few protective charms, right?
Yeah, but he wasn't gonna attack her. Like, just because they touch her doesn't mean that they were going to, like, activate.
I don't know, man.
You know how many people pick her up? You know how many people pick her up gently?
Fair.
Yeah.
We are like every day.
Yeah. So let's talk about the intruders. The intruders want the Saint of Ehrenfest. These are other duchies plus even some sovereign knights. Dunkelfelger goes to fight against them immediately, leaving 𝘿𝙪 all by herself at the Dunkelfelger base. Ehrenfest, meanwhile, is just too depleted to fight. They just want to hunker down in safety, on the safety of Rozemyne's shield, and they want to shield 𝘿𝙪, so Wilfrid goes and gets 𝘿𝙪 over so she can also be safe. Meanwhile, Rozemyne takes the opportunity to heal the wounded.
She is hurting.
Yes, she's beginning to black out. Her vision's like flickering. She has used up a lot of mana. Not only to like heal people, but she did the Leidenschaft thing, turned a freaking darkness face stone shield into dust. That takes a lot of mana. She heals, she has like this huge 𝙁𝙪𝙣𝙧 shield in place. So, man, Rozemyne is like, whew. So, everything is super dangerous because even spectators are getting involved in the fight. The Dunkelfelger people, they like join in the fight. They were sitting on the bench stadium on the benches, and they're like, let's go fight. So they go fight. And meanwhile, like other students, like the Ehrenfest students, they don't know how to fight, so they're also in danger of being involved in the fight. So at this point, however, thankfully, Anastasius shows up, and it turns out that the rogue sovereign knights were lying. The royals never gave the order to interfere with the 𝙫𝙬. By this time, Rozemyne is so faint from all the mana loss that she is dismissed and sent to bed. And that is how the book ends, at least the Rozemyne point of view part ends.
Well, there's another point you didn't put in there. The fact of the matter, Anastasius told Wilfrid he's a failure, and that if this was to happen again, sovereignty would take her themselves.
Wait, this is the epilogue though. Hold on a sec. Before we go into the epilogue. Yeah, that's the epilogue.
The epilogue.
Yeah, hold on.
That was epilogue. Never mind. I'm a little too far.
Okay.
Now the question here is, who sent these people? One of the theories, which I think is very, very, very likely, is that it was Hildebrand, and he might have gotten 𝙁𝙪 to act. But I think if that is the case, then 𝙁𝙪 only did it because it furthers some plot of his own. In any case, there is a lot more going on that will be uncovered in Part 5, Volume 3. So we're just gonna have to hold off on a lot of theorizing for now, though we could, but there's a lot of information that we're still missing. Alright, so with that we get the epilogue, and this is a 𝘿𝙪 point of view.
We're building a ship.
Yeah, so Dunkelfelger lost. Ehrenfest thinks that the game just is postponed or it was on standby. No. The game was still going on because the judge never stopped the game. So Dunkelfelger lost because 𝘿𝙪 left her base on her own volition. 𝘿𝙪 took Wilfrid's hand because she freaking wanted to. She would have been just fine where they had left her, because they left her with all kinds of like offensive tools and defensive things so she could be protected, but she decided to follow her heart. And this illustration that they have for her is really my favorite in this book. Well, probably one of my favorites in this book, and definitely it's top in the series. It's just so pretty, and 𝘿𝙪 is like a girl in love. It's just there's nothing about this that I don't love. So yes, we got back to the present. Anastasius interrogates the Archduke candidates. And I just have to say that the difference in upbringing is like night and day. When faced with royalty and talking with Anastasius, Wilfrid is quick to apologize and say that he has no demands, while 𝙁𝙁, he puts up a fuss. He is not a pushover and is definitely a great Archduke candidate material, at least for a greater duchy. And Wilfrid needs to learn how to basically be like him, because they're no longer a duchy from like the lower ranks. They're now ranked number 8. They really have to start acting like it. So Anastasius chides Wilfrid for taking on the unreasonable demands of Dunkelfelder and their challenge. They could have just, dealt with it a different way. They definitely should have talked to the royal family before accepting the dither. He also warns them that if another dither is made to steal Rozemyne, the royal family would just take her themselves, and gives Wilfrid a sound warning that he needs to do better and defend Rozemyne so she doesn't get stolen. And finally, back in the Dunkelfelder dorms, everyone is astounded at Hannelore beating her brother by using him to get what she wanted, marriage to Wilfrid, because everyone there is under the misapprehension that she's been in love and she has always been plotting to get Wilfrid. But you know what? It works. Hannelore is indeed happy to end up with someone like Wilfrid.
I felt bad for Hannelore's secondhand embarrassment just while 𝙁𝙁 and Anastasius were just yelling and arguing with each other. She's like, please stop. Just no.
𝙁𝙁 does not pull any punches. When Anastasius chided him for being so reckless, he's like, well, I do what I need to do, and I would think that you would understand me because you, Anastasius, did what you could, everything within your power to get you 𝙁𝙗𝙪, and look at you, now you're happily married. And meanwhile, Hannelore is like dying, yes. She's so distraught at like how 𝙁𝙁 is just putting up a fight. I have to admire 𝙁𝙁 a lot. Wilfrid is so quick to apologize and say he has no demands, while 𝙁𝙁 puts up a fuss. So the difference is like night and day, how these kids are brought up. Wilfrid was brought up as a lower duchy kid, and the training he received is totally different from the training 𝙁𝙁 receives. Another thing is that also, if Rozemyne had been there, she would have definitely had demands, and she would have given him some sass for sure. Alright, finally, the Saints Ritual, Lurari point of view. There's not much new info in this chapter, but it's interesting to see that while Rozemyne was, screaming inside during the ritual, everyone only saw her saintly facade and were captured by it. Rozemyne is no longer just the saint of Varenfest. People are now thinking of her as a goddess. So this chapter tells us that more cult members are joining in the ranks. Hartmut would be so proud and so pleased.
I really like the look of the POV character here. She looks like a puppy.
Oh yeah, that illustration is so wonderful. This is the moment somebody falls into the dark side.
She's already been kind of coerced by Morelia with books and stuff. And I like how, I think this is the same character that we've been following from the other side story before. So it's neat to kind of follow this plot line with her and see her drink the Kool-Aid too.
I hope we get more chapters with her. Okay, next one. It's a 𝙁𝙁𝙧 point of view. It's his first appearance and his first point of view. So it's called Someone Worthy of Caution. And this is a conversation that takes place before the first chapter of this book. So...
Title is a double entendre.
Yes. Yeah, from a web novel reader perspective, and actually just as a reader perspective, like we can see
I don't trust this guy.
Yeah, like the title is just so fitting. Like everyone here has their first impressions and they just approach things with their own prejudices and biases. We have Rozemyne towards 𝙁𝙁𝙧 toward Rozemyne, readers towards 𝙁𝙁𝙧, and then add to this Raublut's smearing campaign at work. I mean, let's just say that the person most worthy of caution is not who you might think.
I'm immediately surprised that Anastasius had to kneel to his brother now that he's like set to become the king. Like their stations have already changed that much.
Yeah, and Anastasius is he's super willing to act as a retainer. Like there's nothing he will not do to let his brother know I am not a threat to you. I thought that it was a bit overboard how he was like gonna give his brother like formal greetings. I'm like, dude, he's your brother. And even Sid was like, nah. But no, Anastasius is going above and beyond. And it's not because Anastasius is just like being like a stickler for propriety, but because Anastasius knows that the one thing that Eglantine wants most in the world is peace. So he's willing to abase himself to his brother just to prove that he doesn't want to start a war. Anastasius warns Sigiswald of Rozemyne, and they're talking about her crazy antics, even before they were first to meet. And we see evidence of Raublut clouding the waters with his suspicions, but at least Anastasius seems to think that Rozemyne is not malicious. Sigiswald, however, he's been listening a lot more to the suspicious that Raublut has, so he's not as eager to like not hold Rozemyne accountable. He actually doesn't even want Rozemyne to be anywhere near the hidden library, which actually was like, yes, this is exactly what Ferdinand wanted. He wanted somebody in the royal family to say like, leave this gremlin away from the hidden archive, but alas, things played out the way they did. One thing that I did notice is Sigiswald seemed to be like a very, very like nice kind of fellow. Like he would just like peacefully smile, whatever. But there were some flags here that I did not really like. The first one, I don't know if you guys noticed, but did you guys notice anything about Sigiswald that was kind of like off-putting before I share mine?
Nothing off the top of my head.
So, first off, Sigiswald doesn't care about the 𝘿𝙪𝙣𝙧 one way or another. Like, how foolish is that? That's like first huge red flag. Doesn't he see his father suffering because he doesn't have this 𝘿𝙪𝙧𝙧? They're barely keeping the peace, barely keeping everybody contained, but the church is already like causing trouble. So I wonder, like, if he's downplaying the need of the 𝘿𝙪𝙧𝙧, does this mean that he will not put any effort in doing the things that Rozemyne recommended? Let's remember that when they were talking in the hidden archive, she told him I know praying and dedicating your mana and doing these things seems like superfluous given that you have so much work to do, but it's necessary, so don't cut corners. It seems to me that he's the kind of guy who does not see the need to get the 𝘿𝙪𝙧𝙧, so he's probably gonna cut corners. I don't know, that's just the feeling I get. And also problematic is that he is perfectly willing to have the retainers of his brothers do the duty of holding the library key, rather than sacrifice his own retainers, because his retainers are giving him critical support to his work and life. How inconsiderate is that? And that's a huge red flag. So
when they were first talking and Anastasius like gives them a recap and Sigiswald's just like, I don't understand. Just like, don't worry, brother, neither do I.
So we have the hilarious as always headache-inducing reports, with the addition of fainting Florencia, a fanatic Hartmut pestering Sylvester for permission to go to the Royal Academy, and the reaction to Clarissa's report. It was super fun. These never fail to amuse me. And the funniest thing is that it doesn't even include the report of the bride stealing dinner. I mean, when they hear that, their heads are gonna explode. Man.
Oh my god. Because my first note is, yeah, these people, once they were like raided by the Purge and they were just lighting their houses on fire or blowing their own heads off to escape having their mind read, that's some like pretty hardcore self-repercussions. It's really thankful we had Matthias to kind of give us a heads up on that.
Dude, yeah, if Matthias hadn't done it, they would have been so screwed. Oh man.
Yeah, because they were burning evidence when they got there. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't get there, then what little evidence we got would have been completely gone, and everyone probably would have escaped or done something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. They get their first report, and it's really not too bad. And then they immediately flip the report over, and it's like, oh yeah, P.S. I invited the royalty. And it's just like, oh my god. This is the first one. We're already starting again. We find out that Rozemyne just cares too much about other people, and it's just like, oh, apparently she saw that the king was looking a little weary, so she blessed him, and like she summoned two shops, and they're just freaking out about that. It's like, oh my god, also Clarissa's letter. Can we just burn this? No. 𝙁𝙗𝙗 reports back that everything's fine at the orphanage, but I really do not trust 𝙁𝙗𝙗. I think he's just going to say everything's fine regardless if whether or not it was fine, just for Rosevine's mental health safety. So, like, I can't trust him. But it's also nice that 𝙁𝙗𝙗's father realized that, no, your son's insane. Like, he's not the gray brick of a child he used to be. He is a hazard.
Labrecht is 𝙁𝙗's father, and he's also Florencia's head scholar. So he takes after him in some ways, but not really. 𝙁𝙗 is one wild child.
And it's all Rozemine's fault.
It's all her fault. What isn't her fault, honestly? And there's a line, actually, that Sylvester's like, well, okay, fine, I kind of expect some of this craziness. And then Labrecht tells him, hubris is a slow and insidious killer of Ehrenfest. And yeah, that's where it says, P.S. I've invited the royal family to join us for the dedication, blah, blah, blah.
And that was the part where Florencia fainted.
Yeah.
So when will they realize they jinx themselves every time they think that?
You know what? I don't think they'll ever realize it. They're certainly jinxing her. They're like, this year should be fine. No, it's not.
Never fine.
No, it'll never be fine. Year 4, blow you away. Year 5, year 6, every year is going to exponentially increase.
Yeah, that's what I got from the reports.
Awesome. And that brings us to the end of this volume. But before we finish, let's talk about your favorite moments of this volume. I will start. For me, it is the 𝘿𝙪𝙣, the confrontation. 𝘿𝙪𝙣 proposing to Rozemyne, wooing her, and when it all fails, he challenges Ehrenfest to the bride-taking dinner. I just love that whole chapter. 𝘿𝙪𝙣 had some pretty awesome moments in this, super smooth, and in the previous volume, he was like really adorable, denying the fact that he actually is in love with Rozemyne. Yet, I do have to say, it's just not cool that he waged his sister in a bet to get Rozemyne. Hannelore is just too precious. Why would you do that, man? Why? This is why Hannelore always wished she could have someone like Wilfrid to treat her kindly. So, 𝘿𝙪𝙣, you brought it upon yourself. You could have won, but you could have won if you had been nice to your sister.
That's actually like a really good point. If he played the game and protected his treasure, then he would have won the game, but he didn't. I think my favorite moment of this entire volume is their bride sealing dinner match. It was just exciting to read. We don't get a lot of action in Bookworm, so it's nice to change up the pace. But as for just kind of another moment that I really liked that we didn't mention, was when they were first doing Dunkelfelger's ritual, and after they performed, Rozemyne was going up to do it, and Wilfrid just kind of casually says, my pattern recognition skills are telling me this is a bad idea.
I have this quote here. I don't know what you're planning, Rozemyne, but I think you should drop it. That's some really good lines. Really nice zingers here.
My favorite part is actually the prologue where Ferdinand's working with the Arnsbach scholars, and they're all really appreciative of Ferdinand, and they're bantering themselves, starting to just bash Detlev and start comparing her to Rozemyne. And I'm just sitting here thinking about, is every Archduke candidate in Yurgenschmidt going to eventually be compared to Rozemyne?
Wow, yeah, that's a good point. But see, Rozemyne's such an oddball, you can't even compare her to all the other people.
I mean, can they really help it? She's come first in class 3 years in a row.
She's the
She literally is the best academic.
She is. Yeah.
She's the non-knight Ferdinand of her age. She's she's
who's still undefeated in battle.
Yeah. The only thing is that she has political clouts that Ferdinand really didn't have. She has the backing of her family in Ehrenfest, and she has ties to nobility, so she's even more legendary than Ferdinand now.
Which is ironic to unbelievable levels, but she's cranking out feat after feat, trend after trend.
Back to the comparison. Imagine Rozemyne being super top of the class, and then they're comparing her to somebody who's just so substandard in every way. Detlev. It's not even.
My favorite chapter is the point of view during the ritual.
Oh, the Lauretti point of view?
That's my favorite.
All right. So, anything that you wish you could change from the book, or Just something that you're like, maybe this part, whatever. If anything.
Negative.
Negative to the negative. So everything's all good?
Perfection personified.
Perfection personified. This was certainly one of my favorite books for a reason, because it's so good. Every chapter is packed with good stuff. The next volume is going to be centered around the Inter-Duchy tournament. For those of you who are not in pre-pub, including me, what are some of the things that you look forward to or that you think might happen in the next volume?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the scheming Hildebrand and the fallout from the Arnfest family being, what the heck are you doing here? Why are you doing these things? Why are reports making us faint? I'm waiting for that.
We also get in the cover, we see Ferdinand, so we might get Ferdinand to return. I'm pretty sure he's going to return to the scene, so can't wait to see that. I'm really, really looking forward to that. I miss Ferdinand. We got a prologue, but we need more.
He's going to pinch her cheeks when he sees her.
Yes! I love it. I love their stupid interactions. Yeah. Also, I think we're going to see the results of all of the joint research. So we'll see how it all ends up with the Drowen shell research. Let's see if Ehrenfest was able to pull through and do something at last, or if they're just gonna have the research stolen, or if Ironspec is gonna do something, like if they're gonna measure up. Remember that Ferdinand has high expectations for Ironspec and Ehrenfest joint research. He said that he was gonna work Rozemyne and Raymond to the bone, just because he didn't want him to show like paltry results or to lose out when compared to other joint researches. So we'll see how that happens, how that plays out, and we're gonna see how people react to the results of the dedication rituals and all the craziness that they did with Dunkelfelger. At least this is what I'm hoping to see. I haven't read it in a long time, so I don't remember what's going to happen, so I do look forward to reading that soon. All right, and so we come to the end of this recording. Hey everybody, we actually went shorter this time. It's only 3.5 hours. Hurrah! Anything else you want to add?
Only.
Hey, compared to last time, it was four and something hours. Okay, so
I tried to push us a little quicker. Toward the end, I even stopped talking.
Aw.
I don't talk much, but I really do enjoy listening to you guys. Just like you guys' perspectives. It really helps me, I guess, think about things differently, because I'm not the most, I guess, analytical reader. So.
Oh, that's cool. It's awesome that you were able to join us, Ren. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good one, you guys.
Later.
Bye.
Later.
This video is a concise, edited, and shortened version of our talk. To hear the longer version that's almost 3 hours long and is full of fun tangents and theorizing, you can hop on over to my Ko-fi page for access. So, hey, if you'd like to support me, you can do so that way. As ever, I am thankful to the people on the screen who are my Ko-fi members and those who have given one-time donations. You all are the best. Okay, everybody, that is all for now. Until the next chit-chat, love you. Bye-bye.